Chapter 24. A Close Call with a Camry. Allie pushed through the crowd towards the exit. Her mind was swirling with questions and anger as she thought back to all the times Artemis could have helped her, could have claimed her, and had chosen the opinion of the hunters over her. She was only a few yards away from the door when Percy grabbed her arm. "Hey." He looked at her concernedly. "What's wrong?" Allie met his gaze, fighting the hot tears of fury that were welling in her eyes. "Nothing. I just need some air." She took a deep, shaky breath. "I'll see you back at camp." He didn't let go. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I can take care of myself." He stared into her silver blue eyes, his concern on display in the deep green of his irises. Finally, he let go, and Allie walked out of the palace. Olympus was empty as she wandered the streets towards the elevator. Everyone was at the palace enjoying the party. The streets were bare, the buildings were dark. The stages where the muses held concerts were silent. Allie collapsed onto a marble bench. Her mind was reeling. How could Artemis do this to her? Why even have a daughter in the first place if she was just going to toss her aside? Had the goddess been happy when Allie lost her powers? Was she just a burden to her? She dropped her head into her hands. A sob slipped out, sending a shiver through her body. She didn't want to care what Artemis thought of her, but she couldn't escape the sinking feeling that she wasn't good enough. Maybe she was still undetermined because Artemis was ashamed of her. Her grief turned to anger. She picked up a small stone off the ground and whipped it as far and as hard as she could. Something shattered, a window or a jar. Standing, Allie marched to the elevator and pressed the ground floor button. She descended slowly back to the earth, the sound of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror playing softly in the background. When the elevator door opened into the lobby of the Empire State Building, she walked out, ignoring the strange looks from the mortals milling around the room. A blast of cool, polluted air and the sound of traffic greeted her as she opened the door and strode out into the sidewalk. She walked with her hands in the pocket of her thick hoodie. Her ears were numb, but she didn't pull up her hood. Her mind was too busy running through all the insults she wanted to throw in Artemis's face, all the ways the goddess had failed her. A car honked directly to her left, and someone yanked her backwards as a Camry whizzed through the crosswalk, right where Allie had been standing. "Whoa!" A male voice sounded next to her. "You should really watch where you're going." Allie's heart was racing from the near-death experience. Of course she would survive monsters and titans only to die in a car accident. "Thanks." She turned to face her rescuer, but froze when she recognized him. "Chris." He smirked as he glared at her. "Hey, freak." He pushed her backwards into an alley where no one would see him and slammed her against the wall. Glaring at the boy who had betrayed them for Kronos, Allie grabbed his wrist, kicking him in the shin and twisting his arm around behind his back, bracing her hands in each in such a way as to easily break the limb if she had to. "You were never a match for me," she hissed in his ear. "You're right," he agreed. "At least not on my own." 5 more half-bloods emerged from the shadows surrounding Allie and Chris. They were all armed. Allie studied her opponents carefully before shoving Chris into one of them and drawing her venomous dagger. She held it ready, waiting for someone to strike. A boy charged. She ducked his sword and vaulted him over her back onto a girl who was still standing in the circle. The two went sprawling across the ground. Another boy dashed forward. She spun aside and sliced him across the cheek. Immediately he screamed and crumpled to the ground, clutching his bleeding face. "Impressive." A cold, familiar voice echoed through the alley as Luke morphed out of the shadows. "You." Allie growled, raising her knife threateningly. "What? No feather feet, no messenger boy?" he asked. "You're supposed to be dead," she seethed. "Why? Because I fell 50 feet? He smiled as if the idea was ridiculous. Allie gripped her knife tighter. "Oh, come on." He darted forward, twisting her arm painfully behind her back. "I was always quicker than you." He nodded to one of the half-bloods. A boy stepped forward, holding a rag. Allie struggled against Luke's grip, but the son of Hermes just wrenched her arm violently. The boy forced the rag over Allie's mouth and nose. It smelled sweet with sedatives. Allie tried to hold her breath, kicking and squirming, but soon she had to breathe, and the pleasant fumes filled her lungs and made her drowsy. She fought the drugs, biting hard into her bottom lip. She could taste blood, but the sedatives had done their work. Her eyelids grew heavier and heavier until she couldn't hold them open any longer. She heard muffled voices and saw colorful shapes. Then, nothing.